Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hines from OurPaleoFamily.com, and we are on day 1 of our pre-holiday Whole 30. So I'm not going to go into great detail on what the Whole 30 is, but you can go to Whole30.com and find all the details of that program. Basically, it's an elimination diet of sorts, kind of a reset. And if you think you're eating really well and living clean and exercising, and yet you're still having some aches and pains, maybe migraines or some digestive upset, some sort of problem you can't figure out, doing an elimination diet like the Whole 30 is a great idea because it really strips out just about all of the primary inflammatory foods, and then when your 30 days are over, you slowly add them back in and assess how you feel. And so you can really get a handle on what might be affecting you, what's causing your symptoms, and what's not. And a lot of times people are eliminating a lot of things from their diet that are not necessary, and that can be really, it can be difficult emotionally, honestly, to be so limited in what you can eat. It can affect your social life, and it just can be very mentally draining to have to think so much about what you're eating. So one reason to do a diet like the Whole 30 is to realize maybe there's some things I'm eating that I should not be eating, and you are going to need to leave those out to feel your best. But the flip side of that is that you might not be eating something that you really can, and you get to add some things back in, and that's very freeing. So as we head into pumpkin spice latte season, I thought it would be a great idea for me personally and my family to do a Whole 30 to get the kids away from sugar, because Halloween is coming and we will let them trick or treat and they will eat some candy, but to kind of clean ourselves up before we get to that that time of indulging. So we're doing a Whole 30 for the month of October, and my goal is to cook for you each day what we're having for dinner. And sometimes it'll be simple and sometimes it'll be a little more complicated. Tonight we're having a whole roasted chicken in the Instant Pot. And honestly, I've never done this before. If it turns out badly, then I'll say at the end, don't make this. But I think it's going to be great. And so we're going to get started. And I'm going to turn my Instant Pot on saute, medium saute, or normal. Sorry, it's less, normal, and more. In the Instant Pot, people say normal is what you want for this kind of application. So I have a tablespoon of ghee right here. Ghee is a clarified butter. The milk proteins are removed. So on Whole 30 you don't have dairy, but it's basically like butter oil. And the Whole 30 program managers say that it's fine. So I'm going to let that heat up, and then I'm going to make my little spice rub for my chicken. And into this bowl, I'm just going to mix it into this bowl, that way as I rub it on my chicken, I get all the spices all over the chicken. I have one spot that's all salt and one spot that's all pepper. So I've got a teaspoon of salt, and I will write this recipe up for you, and it will be on the blog. So you'll be able to find it. There'll be a little link to the recipe on OurPaleoFamily.com. So I've got a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of pepper, a teaspoon of paprika, a teaspoon of ground sage. If you have some fresh sage, that would be delicious, but I did not, so I'm using powdered, and then a teaspoon of thyme. Now I did look at quite a few recipes to get some inspiration, and they were all drastically different. And something that I found really irritating was when a recipe said, use 2 tablespoons of herbs and spices of your choice. Well, I want you to tell me what herbs and spices you think would taste really good. And I want to make that recipe, and then if I don't like it, next time I'll make some adjustments. Or say you write up your list of spices, and I'm reading it and I say, oh, I really hate cumin. I'm just going to leave the cumin out, but I'm going to use the rest. So I wanted to give you a blend of spices that I think tastes really good with chicken. And now if you decide you really hate paprika or you love garlic, adjust it. But I wanted to give you a good base to go from. So my ghee has melted. I'm just going to give this a swirl so that it's coating the whole bottom. And I'm going to real quickly, I've washed my chicken, so that means I have rinsed it, and I have patted it dry with a paper towel, and I'm just laying it on the grocery bag to try to keep the chicken mess kind of contained. So I'm going to rub this all over, and once I feel like I have the top and the bottom really well seasoned and covered, I'll just, if I have some left, which I will, I'll toss the rest of this down inside the cavity of the chicken. So get in between his little wings and all the sides of the legs. Kind of hard to get those because they're round, but work at it, you can do it. And then I'll just lift him up and I'll toss that down in there. Okay, so little chicken. So breast side down. It should sizzle. There we go. I'm going to set this aside. There is a little bag of the giblets, which is like the heart and the neck, that were stuffed down inside the cavity of my chicken. So when you buy a whole chicken, it will probably have this inside. Some brands package it differently. Some don't put it in a little pouch. Some just stuff them in there. Some they're in plastic. Some they're in this parchment. I have cooked a chicken with this inside, and it was fine. But I felt kind of silly afterwards when I realized it was in there. But it's kind of hard to see. It's white. It's like the same color as the chicken. So pull that out, and I'm gonna put it in here because the juice, the broth that's created from cooking my chicken, is going to be great broth, and I'm going to save it. Let me rinse my hands. Okay, so my chicken is browning. I'm going to let that go for 6 to 7 minutes, as I said. Got my tongs ready, and I'm probably going to need a fork as well to grab it. And what I'm going to put in here is the same thing I would put in my pot if I were making broth. So I have some carrots, celery, and onions. This is trash now. And in my recipe I said 3 large carrots, but I actually had 4 left in the bag, and they have been in the fridge for a little while, so I'm just using all 4. So I'm just going to roughly chop those. We're probably not going to eat these. They're going to be kind of mushy. I have my celery. Again, I said 3 stalks of celery, but when I went to the store, they didn't have the regular celery this week. They had celery hearts, which are kind of smaller and they're shorter, and I wanted all these leaves, so I just took one of those celery hearts out and chopped it in half. So I have the top half, so I have all these leaves. I cut the very tip off that was brown, and then I'll just chop this in half. You don't have, people that don't like chopping and cutting, this is the kind of recipe for you because it's just real rough chopping. And my recipe calls for 1 small to medium onion. And again, I had, for some reason, a part of 2 onions in my fridge. So this works together to make about 1 small to medium onion. So we'll just cut that skin off, peel off those outer layers that are kind of tough, and just give that a rough chop. And clear this out of the way. So my chicken is 4.5 pounds. It's a pretty small chicken. And normally, if I were going to roast that in the oven, it would take 1.5 hours to 2 hours. The Instant Pot manual says 20 to 25 minutes for a whole chicken, and they don't give any guidelines as to size or the weight of the chicken. So I know that this is a relatively small chicken. So I'm going to go for 20 minutes. Let me test it and see how we're doing on brownness. Oh, it looks really beautiful. I'll show it to you in just a minute, so I'm going to actually take it all the way out of there. I should have had this set up ahead of time. But I want, so this is what you miss with the Instant Pot. You're not going to get anything crispy out of the Instant Pot. But you get a lot of flavor from the browning, whether that browning comes from in a skillet on your stove or in the oven. So I can get some of that flavor by browning my chicken in that little bit of ghee first, and then I'm going to add everything else to my pot, and it's going to get all steamy and under pressure, and it's not going to come out crispy, but I'm still going to have the flavor that came from browning my chicken to start with. And now if you really, really wanted crispy skin, you could absolutely put this under your broiler for a couple minutes. You'd have to watch it and kind of move it around, or you'd get really dark spots. But then your skin will crisp up. So I'm going to take my chicken out. I'm going to add my vegetables. I'm going to add my giblets and 1.5 cups of water. You could use chicken broth if you had it and you wanted to. And I have some, but it's in the freezer and I forgot to get it out, so I'm just going to use water. I've got all this flavor. I have all this flavor from my spices that I rubbed on. So adding water is not going to mean that I'm going to have a flavorless chicken. It's still going to be delicious. And then I'm going to set my chicken back on top. So the Instant Pot comes with a rack. Honey, will you grab that for me out of the closet? The pot comes with this rack, which I have used a couple times. I made a meatloaf using this. I can't remember what else, a couple different things. And I saw as I was looking for recipes, I saw quite a few that used this rack. But I'm going to use my vegetables as a rack. And that way I don't have to worry about washing this at the end. That's how I do my Thanksgiving turkey. The same way I make a rack with I don't cut them up. I leave my celery and carrots whole and kind of fit the carrots down in between. It works great, and it gives me a very yummy base for my gravy. Okay, so I'm going to pull out the chicken. So I want to show you, I kind of stuck my tongs down in the cavity and got a good hold of it that way. You see how nice and brown this is? Part of that is because of the herbs that I have on there, but then the other part is because I browned it. Okay, so I have to turn it off. And I'm going to add my veggies. Pick this up. I'm not going to add any additional salt. I put a whole teaspoon of salt on the chicken. That'll flavor everything. I don't want it to be too salty. All in my giblets. Just toss that around in the oil, a little bit of oil. I just have 1 tablespoon of ghee in there. I'm going to pour the water in now. I don't want to pour the water right on top of my chicken. And then back in goes the chicken, breast side up. Okay, put our lid on. And put it to sealing, and I'm going to do manual. It's on high pressure. It's set to it's set to 120 minutes because last thing I made was broth. So I have to turn this way down, so I just press the minus button. Right here is where you see that it's high pressure. So when it gets to 20, I'll just let go. There we go. And then come up to pressure, cook for 20 minutes, and we'll let the pressure come down naturally for a little bit. Okay, we're back. The chicken has cooked for 20 minutes under high pressure. We've had 23, 24 minutes of coming down, depressurizing naturally, and now I need to go. So we're going to release the pressure, and thanks to one of my viewers who said put a towel over the valve, which I thought about doing that in the past, but I was afraid that it might sort of dampen the depressurizing, the steam coming out in some way. So I was a little bit hesitant to do that, but I'm going to give it a try today. Oh! Well, phooey, it was done and I didn't realize it. I must have been horsing around when the pressure finished. So, in less than 25 minutes, the pressure came down naturally. It looks good and done, doesn't it? I can tell that it is definitely tender. So let's see if we can pull it out without it falling apart on us. So I'm going to use that same trick of sticking my tongs kind of down in the cavity. I want to tilt it up so that the broth runs out. I don't make too big of a mess. My cutting board here has a lip around it. I don't know if you can see that, but that's going to help to catch some of those juices. And I meant to get a spoon because I really want to taste this broth. Oh, I have to show it to you. It's beautiful. This nice, dark, rich color. It's going to taste so good. So this chicken is not one that I would put on the table whole and present because it doesn't look beautiful. But you want to cook a chicken pretty quickly and have it nice and tender, falling off the bone, and have meat for a chicken pot pie or just salads or snacking, however you like to eat your chicken. This is a great way to do it. And when we buy a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, if the skin is nice and crispy, my husband and I will eat the skin usually. The kids, my son will never eat the skin. He finds that disgusting. My daughter, she's kind of hit or miss. So if you're not a family that just has to have the crispy skin, the Instant Pot is a great way to cook your whole chicken and get this amazing broth to boot. You could just cut this up, put it back in, and have a delicious chicken and vegetable soup. I want to show you what my carrots look like after cooking for 20 minutes. And they are fork tender, but they're not mush. I absolutely will save these, and I absolutely am going to use this as soup. And I just want to taste my broth and see. It's not very fatty. This must have been a pretty lean little chicken. Just want to give it a taste. It would need a little bit of salt, but it has very good flavor, and I want to taste my chicken. It's really good. I'm going to try the dark meat. So delicious. Little salt and pepper right on top of that. So yummy. So day one of the Whole30, we'll have this delicious chicken for dinner. What we don't eat, the meat, I'll stick back in that broth, season it up a little bit, skim the fat off, and we'll have some great soup. I'll put it in the freezer for some cold days ahead. And to go along with this chicken tonight, we're just going to have a simple salad, a really big salad with a bunch of crispy vegetables and my homemade ranch dressing. And that recipe is in my book. I actually have an ebook. It's called Your Paleo Holiday. I released it last fall, just about a year ago. And it's a part one of part two, and it covers the first half of the year starting in September. So we have some fall recipes that go through Christmas, New Year's, Valentine's Day, and Super Bowl party. I'm trying to remember what else is in there. But in one of those sections is a homemade ranch dressing / dip. You can kind of thin it out and make it a dressing or leave it thicker and use it as a veggie dip for, I think that's in the Super Bowl section. And it is really yummy, and it is totally Whole30 compliant because it's made with our homemade mayonnaise and some coconut milk and fresh herbs. So that's the dressing we're going to have on our salad tonight with this delicious chicken. So thanks for watching. I hope you're doing a Whole30 along with me. I would love to know how it's going, so leave some comments. I hope it's going well because it's day one. Thanks, everybody.